Thank you. Is the audio okay? Super. Thank you guys for coming all the way to Copenhagen. That's really, really amazing, and so many familiar faces that I've only met online and never in real life. First, I'm going to talk about profit. Big surprise for those who know me. But today I'm also going to talk about long-term profitability. I'm always talking about profit right now, but there's also such a thing as optimizing for future profit, and we can do that with POAS LTV bidding. First, for those who don't know me, I'm the CEO and founder of ProfitMetrics. I'm Danish, that's why we're here today. I've been in e-commerce for the last 18 years, primarily as an e-commerce owner, so I didn't come from the marketing space before I started ProfitMetrics, but had different businesses and saw a lot of weird things we were doing. We are in ProfitMetrics working with thousands of e-commerce businesses and marketing specialists like yourself around the world. First, I will start with the ROAS problem. And it's not because ROAS is wrong in any way, but it was supposed to be return on ad spend, and someone shifted it out with revenue because we didn't have the return, which should be profit. So this is very, very, very typical for many e-commerce businesses. We have the break-even ROAS, so meaning how many euros do we need back in revenue for every euro spent to break even, ranging from 3 and all the way up to 20. And then when you're sitting with clients or with colleagues, you're thinking, what target do we need to use? And in this case, we would probably say 10, because then we're winning on all except the one at 20, because that one we are maybe just liquidating products. But the problem by setting these target ROAS based on revenue so conservatively high is that we are losing out on so much volume, because the one that only needed 3 or a little bit above 3 in the bottom, that would also have been profitable at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So when we're setting target ROAS, we always do it conservatively because we don't have the transparency and we are losing out, and that's why it's often very, very hard to scale. So even 2 orders with the exact same revenue, that would be seen for you or the algorithm as exactly the same. But if we look at the profitability, it's very different. We can be much more aggressive on the second one than the first one. So the way we have tried solving this in the past have been through what I call margin grouping, and many think this is profit bidding, and it is in theory, but in practice it isn't really, because some people search on AirPods, they go in and buy AirPods, but some also buy accessories with it. Or maybe they are running and it's raining here in Denmark and they want something that is actually waterproof, so they buy a whole other headset. But the way we then have used this in the past is we divide the products up in different margin groups, so mid-margin, high margin, low margin, then we just set target ROAS accordingly. But we then use all the revenue coming from AirPods and think they have the average margin of AirPods. But if we look at order 2 and 3, it's actually 25% more profitable or 65% more profitable than the average on AirPods. So again, here we are losing out on a ton of profitable volume, and where this can become very dangerous, and I tried that in one of my businesses, where if you're marketing high margin products and people end up buying low margin products, then you're actually unprofitable and you're losing a ton of money, and you could actually be scaling that because you're thinking everything is great. So margin grouping using just the feed is not profit bidding because the customers are not buying like that. It's very rare they buy the same product as they click on. So that is why I believe POAS is better. Who have heard of POAS? Oh, that's a lot. That's cool. That was a KPI I came up with, and essentially this is just the real return on ad spend, because return was supposed to be profit. So here's the profit divided by the ad spend. And the cool thing is we always know where break-even is. Break-even is always one within that channel. If we make 10,000 euros in profit after free shipping, discount codes, cost of goods, shipping costs, payment fees, and so on, if we wanted to break even, we can use 10,000 euros in ad spend. So we always have that transparency of where they are break even. So we don't need to ask that question before of setting a conservative high target. We know that one is break even. And this is where it's so easy to actually align business goals with the marketing. Because if we have a business where we want to really optimize bottom line, we maybe go for 2 or plus 2, and then we say, okay, we get 2 euros back in profit every time we use 1. It can also be that we want to scale the revenue, but still be profitable, then we maybe go for 1 to 2. But where POAS is often thought of something that where we optimize profitability. I believe that is wrong. It's just as well for revenue, because I hear so often we cannot use POAS because we are focusing on new customer acquisition or revenue growth. So we don't need to be profitable right now. But the point of using POAS is just we know where break-even is. So we know how close we are to the actual target. So if we were, for example, going to optimize for new customers, which I'm going to talk about today, maybe we go for 1. And then if we are losing too much, the algorithm will be more conservative, or the marketer can decrease that ad spend. But if we are winning or really, really profitable, there's more volume, we can be much more aggressive. So it allows us to be much more aggressive and then still hit that target and that goal the business actually wants. So we always have to look at the profit from the attributed order. So it's not the AirPods margin, it's actually the orders coming out of it. So we look at what is the revenue after discount codes. Have we, in this case, there's free shipping, no shipping income, but we still pay for sending that product out. Then we have product costs, payment fees, packaging, and then we calculate the gross profit on every single order. That will be attributed back to those AirPods if that was the click. And then we send it in ProfitMetrics server side. And of course, server side is great because then we have all of the optimal signals, but it's also to hide the profit, because many businesses is just really afraid that a competitor or client can see that profit. So once that is sent in Google, this is where the magic happens. So you normally have the revenue, you have the ROAS, but now you also have gross profit, net profit, and POAS. And I believe this is where POAS bidding already starts, because as soon as you have the revenue ROAS and you see the profit and POAS, that's where you can say, hey, we don't need that conservative high target. We can be much more aggressive. Or maybe you're seeing the orders coming out of it. It's less profitable, so you need to increase it. Already there you're making decisions on the profit together with the revenue, and that's POAS bidding. Of course, you can also change the conversion action, so the algorithm is actually optimizing for profit. So if you change them from revenue to secondary, profit to primary, from that time going forward, the conversion value in Google is profit. And then you'll be able to set different target ROAS. You use the native target ROAS in Google, but because it's profit value is bidding on, now 1.8 or 180, that's 1.8 in POAS. There is a whole way of transitioning from revenue ROAS to POAS. I'll not get into that today, but if anyone have questions, you can just come over. We have a ton of material and a ton of knowledge on how to do that. But ROAS only tells you what you have sold, but profit tells you what you actually made, and only profit pays those bills. Revenue don't alone. So should you optimize for short-term profitability or long-term profitability? That is what I'm going to talk about today, because I often get that question of people saying we cannot use profit because we have these products where we cannot make money, there is a lot of competition, but we know a ton of people are searching, clicking, buying, and they come back. And if that is actually the case, maybe that is the products you need to optimize for future profit. But first you need to determine what kind of business is it you're working with. Is it someone selling phone accessories like mobile covers or furniture or sporting goods? Is there actually that natural repurchase rate of that product? Do we know, can we predict when people need the next iPhone cover? Most likely not, it's pretty hard. Or when they need more furnitures, are they moving again? We don't know when they are moving. But there's also those other businesses where it's beauty products or supplements. I've had a couple of businesses in the supplement where we're selling protein powders, or it could be wine. People buy a lot of wine again and again. But there is a natural repeat purchase rate in these products. If you are a user of protein powder and you want to train, at some point it's empty, you need to buy again. It's easier to predict, and you can see those products is something that is naturally bringing customers back. But you need to ask yourself, is the customers returning by themselves? Are they coming through a brand search or direct search, or is it those Klaviyo flows that gets them in? Or if you're looking at customers coming back, are you just paying for them again? Is it just a generic search where they end up buying at the store again? So if you have that kind of business like a mobile accessory store or something like that, where there is no real natural retention, you don't know when people are buying, maybe they had a good experience, but when do they break the iPhone and need a new cover or something like that? And are they just landing on your site through a Google search again? So they are searching for something generic. And is there a brand loyalty? Are people buying at your place, or do they not mind buying from another place as long as it's it's a trusted partner and the price is good, then maybe they're buying somewhere else. If that's the case, I believe you should optimize for new and existing customers equally. Don't go out and optimize for future profit. But if you have that brand where you're selling protein powder, maybe people are always coming back, they really love it, they come back by themselves because you get them to be a loyal brand ambassador, really loving this, want everything from the brand, and you can get them in from email flow, so you're not paying for them again and again. Maybe you're using a brand search click, but that's pretty inexpensive. That's where you should maybe bid for future profit and bid for profit out in the future, where you can be more aggressive to get more customers in. But when you do it, make sure you actually are not basing it on gut feelings, because I hear so many businesses saying this, where they say, hey, customers are coming back when they buy this product. They are coming back, so when we are selling, we don't make money, but we know they are coming back. But are they actually? So you need something, this is ProfitMetrics dashboard, but you need something similar where you have a dashboard that comes with backend data. You can see how many new and existing customers is there, how much profit are you making the first 30, 60, 90, 180 days, and actually verify before you do it. So only bid for future profit when you know customers are coming back by themselves. So how do we actually bid for future profit? There is the thing called predicted LTV, and that works by predicting when a customer buys the first time, you predict on the first order what their, for example, it could be 1 year, what is the first year's profit based on signals like where do they come from, what have they bought, demography, geo, browsing, history, all these kinds of first-party data and track data. So you predict that value, you send it in, and then you use target ROAS again. And then maybe you are going to use a third of it, and then you say, okay, we are okay by bidding a third of the 1 year profit in the start to acquire, or at least be very strong position in the auction and win that client. We've all heard that the one who bids most win the client, and that is also correct. So this is an approach, but it's an approach that is definitely not for all, because a lot of people that do this do not have enough data. You need to have really reliable data. You need to have a lot of data. And what is often happening is that people start it, and then of course they use a lot more ad spend because it's easier or cheaper to get returning customers in. Then they put that ad spend into new customers. It's more expensive, so they get less purchases in. So the ad spend goes up, the contribution margin go down, and after maybe a quarter, they are actually not ready to use that cash flow and are afraid, is that profit actually coming back in the future? So it only works if everyone, all stakeholders know that we are now bidding and we are paying much more for customers because 2 quarters later we are going to make it back in profit. Also, trend shifts. So these models are normally based on some kind of historic significance to predict the future. And it's just not always the past is the future, because there could be another brand where that customer was supposed to buy at your store or your brand, but they actually buy on another brand that is more fancy now. So it's super, super, super dangerous to actually bid for that future profit if it doesn't happen. So predicted LTV sounds super smart. It's like seen as the holy grail. I love talking about it, but it's only smart until the future doesn't deliver the profit you already paid for. So it can be really dangerous. And this is why I'm going to talk about something I call Product LTV POAS bidding. And this is like a lighter but more safe approach with very similar benefits. But first we need to make sure we optimize for new customers. We need to separate them. So in Google we upload the list, make sure it's something that is always updated. So Google always have that audience list of new customers. And then you can upload it to Google and say this is actually new customers. And I made these slides a week ago, and now Google have changed it because I wanted to say, make sure, because Google sets a value, it predicts that value. Nobody really knows how, but sometimes it's crazy, sometimes it's not, but it's a value. When a new customer buys, it just adds that value to the conversion value in Google. And people are saving it, and we have seen terrible, terrible cases where suddenly there is hundreds of thousands of euros extra in the conversion value. It doesn't look like it is in the back end. There's much more revenue or profit than there actually is, and the algorithm have gone crazy. They have just overspent it, and it's because they just click save without actually looking or adjusting this this value. But before, 3 days ago, I saw a post from Kim where he said now Google is actually, we need to add a value. Before we could just set 0.01 for new customers. Now we have to set a number. So they changed it. We cannot just set 0.01. If we save that list, we have to set a minimum. Here it says like 37 krooners. So we need to set that. Hopefully it's just some bug or something like that, but we don't know yet. But once you have that set up, you need to go in and use the new customer goal. That is in PMax, it's also in standard shopping, and this is where we are telling Google to only focus on new customers. And again, here it also sets that value, so just check that value is as low as it can be. And then if you have conversion actions, and I will get into that, where you only have new customers, that is preferred, but I'll come into why. Once you have that, you will of course need to set your target ROAS here, which is POAS, much more aggressive because it's more expensive to get new customers in than existing, but it's okay because we know they're coming back in the future. So how does Google actually determine if it's a new and existing customer? It does it, and I spoke at GML with one of the product leads from Google on this product. You do it already at auction time. So it's in real time when someone starts a search, Google go in and look, do we think it's a new or an existing customer? And they use the cookies, the audience list, and please don't use cookies because cookies can be deleted within 7 days, so everyone is new. So use those audience lists. So by there, Google determine if they are new or existing. But there is a big problem with Google's determination. They cannot do it on iOS devices. So iPhones, iPads, they cannot do it. They're unknown. And then we have this little tag many of you have seen, probably where you can set if it's a new and existing customer in GTM or in the Google tag. That is not for the reporting. The only thing that is used for is actually post-training of the algorithm if Google decided it correct in the auction, because it happens before the conversion happens. It happens actually before people even enter the site. So Google's native setup, it's very easy to set up. It works out of the box with revenue, but it have one big problem, and that is around 30% are unknown. And this is even if it's not a cookie problem, because of course if people say no, they cannot determine if they are new or existing to cookies, but it's because of these iOS devices. And then we actually also see that sometimes up to 40% of the customers Google says is new is actually existing. So this is why we have built something differently, where we are separating up the conversion actions. We have something also called Conversion Booster. This is our V2, so a new one. It's in beta now, or closed beta, but it will be out for everyone soon. Here we separate up new and existing customers. So if it's a new one, it will go into a conversion action with new. Existing, it will go into existing with both profit and revenue. We also have these LTV, 30, 60, 90 days. I'll get into them later. But the point of this is we can do back-end lookup. So if it's a Shopify or Magento, or you just upload your full customer list hashed, we can look up if we know this hash mail, yes or no. So we can say it actually is a new customer. Have we ever seen it? Or then it will be an existing if we have done that. But we separate them, so there's no unknown. We can do it on iOS devices with this. You will also be able to do it if you build some conversion actions looking up at the back end, but it's just super important that you do the lookup and not Google. So the LTV conversion actions we have, and this is the one I'm going to use, we have one called 90 days. And the reason why it's 90 days, that's because we're using Google's native attribution window. That's maximum 90 days. So if a customer come in on day one, we see this is a customer we have never seen in the back end, then we go in and calculate both profit and revenue, but we send profit into this conversion action, LTV 90 days. If the customer comes back, I think it's 35 days later, we will then see it's the same customer. We then calculate the profit, we send it in the same conversion action, but with the original track data of order one. So it will be attributed back to order one's journey, attribution journey in Google, so the products they have clicked on or whatever ads they have clicked on. If they buy again 81 days later, we will do the same and send it back with the original track data from order one. So it will actually fill up within that attribution window if people buy more after the first purchase within that frame or that time frame. So here is the setup of ours versus a client who have both of them, also the Google native solution. And the Google's native solution here is set up by all best practices. It's server-side tag manager with webhooks, audience lists that are automatically synced. So everything is set up properly with these tags and so on. But you can see we have these columns with new and existing customers from ProfitMetrics. We have the one with existing. There is 423 new existing customers. And then on the left here, you can see how Google labels them: unknown, new customers returning. 205 is actually labeled as new, but we know with 100% accuracy, they are not new, they are existing. We have already seen that mail in the back end before. So it's actually not, imagine you're optimizing and you're really bidding aggressively on new customers and 40% of them is actually existing. So it's pretty dangerous, and you can also see the unknown, how many is unknown. But if you do it on backend, you can do it, and this is primarily because of iOS devices. So when you bid for new customers, make sure they really are new, and Google often gets it wrong, at least for now. They will probably get better. So how do we use this product LTV POAS? First, if we are bidding equally for new and existing customers, what we are doing is we're asking for a target ROAS. And target ROAS is the value, and then they have the click price. And if we're looking at existing customers, they often buy more than new customers. They convert much higher, so they're also cheaper. So they actually takes the average up in that target ROAS. Where a new customer is more expensive, they often buy a little bit less. So Google will prioritize returning customers when you're bidding for both. So here you can see 75%, this is a campaign going that bids for them equally. 75% of them are actually existing customers. Only 25 is new. That's also fine, but just know that that is how Google does it out of the box. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we are bidding for new customers and getting as many new customers in on that campaign because we are separating them. And then we want to show them product that is proven to make extra profit after that first purchase within the first 90 days. So those that have that natural retention or repurchase rate, not those products that people just buy once and never come back. So here is a campaign where it's actually optimizing for new customers. 84% are new customers. Google always gets better, but it will always have existing customers because it does it at auction time. So it makes some customers, it will predict wrong if they are new or existing, but the point by having individual conversion actions for new and existing is, yes, we're getting that value in. We can maybe use it as reporting or when we make decisions, but the value that is used in the target ROAS for the bidding is only based on the new customers. So even if Google send in the existing customer clicks and the purchase, we're not using them for the algorithm in the bidding. Then we have I've just made like a product shopping report where we have new customer profit. So that's when it is a new customer, it's the profit from the first purchase. And then we have the one with 90 days. So where it has filled up with those products where people come back a lot in the first 90 days, that is filled up with that extra profit. And then I just made a multiplier just to have something to sort on where it's the products that have the most extra profit after the first purchase, but within the 90 days. And then we could go in and just do like bucketing. Many of you have tried labelizing tools. We make a custom label. It could be on the 20% most extra LTV products, those who give the most in afterwards. It could also be multiple campaigns if there's a lot of them, or they have different, there's maybe 5% you want to be super aggressive on. But then we have these where we add the custom label, and then we have a campaign where we only bid for new customers with those proven products that always have shown in the last 90 days is actually having a high multiplier. And then we can go in and set a new target. So I would recommend on a POAS, start with something like break even. Don't go crazy and say you will lose a ton of money to start with. We want to have it as a safe way of doing it. But this way you are breaking even on the first purchase, but you know that you are showing it to new customers that buy products that in the last 90 days have proven to bring in more profit after that first conversion. And then you have these 30, 60, 90 days. That's why we made them. So you can actually follow if products are actually doing it through that 90 days. So if something changed and products suddenly are not doing it because they are not trending anymore or something, they can go out of that bucket, or if new one comes in, you can add them again also. So The key takeaway, ROAS only tells you what you have sold, but POAS tells you what you made, and only profit pays the bills. Only bid for future profit if you know customers return by themselves. Predicted LTV sounds super smart. I love talking about it, but it's only as smart as until it doesn't actually deliver that profit we already paid for a long time ago. When you bid for new customers, make sure they actually are new. Just don't always trust those columns. Google doesn't always gets it right. Sorry, Mick, I know you're in here. We have a Googler. Future profit comes from steering Google towards new customers, and then with proven repeat purchase products that have proven to deliver more profit in the future. That's it for me, guys. Thank you, and have a great day.